Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. I'm your host, Dale Parrish. My co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hi, Ken. How you doing?
Hi, Dale. Doing good. How about yourself?
Just fine. Just fine.
Good.
Well, Ken, we've got. By the way, folks, Ken will be, among other things, this evening. Ken will be monitoring any viewer comments or questions that we may get. So if someone makes a comment or a question that he thinks we need to address, he'll give us a high sign and let us know. So Ken, we're at number 258, broadcast number 258 tonight, and you've been on board for 121 of those. So
cruising right along, aren't we?
Yeah, we sure are. I do. I might as well make the apology right now for last Monday. As you know, we had to cancel the broadcast at the very last minute due to a technical problem. And we identified the technical problem being me. So just that was all my fault. And I won't go into any detail, but just folks, sorry for that happening last week, but
at least you're taking credit for it, Dale. You're taking credit for it. You're not going in the basement and hiding. So,
that's true. Normally I try to blame everything on you. I know, but because you are the tech guy, but this one I got to own up to. This one I've got to own up to. Well, Ken, give us a little update, a little brief update on that QR code up there and what that's all about.
That little QR code is there for people to go ahead and get your smartphone out and take a snapshot of that so you can link to our subscriber list. What you're going to do is put in your name and email address. That's all we're asking for. We will not spam or send you millions of emails each month. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give you access to a platform where you get lots of free stuff. Nothing wrong with free stuff, and we're not going to charge. We're not going to raise taxes to cover it. This is purely free stuff. I will post a link in the chat for those that maybe can't use a QR code. But if you're like Dale and you're technically challenged where you don't know how to use these codes yet, we'll get you a link that you can do it with the URL. So join the subscription list. I think you'll find it very, very intuitive, educational, and entertaining.
Ken, you will be happy to know that just last Friday evening, I went to a high school football scrimmage, and instead of handing out paper rosters, you had to scan a QR code
to get the roster.
Wow. So, and of course, I said, no problem. I know how to do that.
Yeah, this is happening all the time. The Girl Scout cookies, Dale.
So I was very proud of myself. I'm seeing that more and more at football games.
It's all over. It's all over.
Yeah. So I was able to do it. Well, listen, Ken, we need to take some time here. We would have done this last week had we not had that technical problem that I spoke of. But the month of July was a super month. I don't know how else to classify it. As you probably heard us talk in the past, we obviously, like any other live stream or podcast, we track views. And we've been doing this for some time. And we had just set a new record in June. And here comes July, and we've even set a brand new record at 156,946 views. That's really something, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, I think we're on the Olympic trail of views with COS Out Live.
Yeah.
So, we have to keep pushing forward.
And I think it's well, we can explain this a little bit more. Take just a few minutes here. We we've been utilizing AI, and one of our team members, Charlie Myers, has been able to utilize AI and create some interesting shorts from the recordings of our broadcasts, and then he selects the most popular ones, are the ones that seem to be good, and those are the ones that get distributed to the various social media platforms. So Charlie has really helped us spread COS Indiana Live, and 150.
I might add that if you see any of these shorts, go ahead and share them, because that just increases the visibility of them, and certainly helps us to get more views, which we hope will turn over some new folks onto Convention of States, and hopefully tune in to see us live for the full show.
Yep. Well, we want to celebrate just a little bit more, and let's play a little something that Ken put together here to help us celebrate our new record. Boy, Ken, you're getting very good at these celebratory. I hope we have many more of these, quite honestly.
I do too. Hopefully that and Miss Liberty can end them all for us.
Yeah. So very and obviously I think we're the content of our productions is what attracts people to the views, to the shorts. So we're going to keep trying our best to have pertinent and interesting content. So that's a continuous challenge to us, is to come up with good content. And we'll be talking about what's coming up a little later in our broadcast this evening. But you notice we didn't have our debt clock. We normally talk about the debt clock a little bit, especially now that our national debt's tipped over 35 trillion. But we're going to be, I'll mention this again later on in the broadcast tonight, but Labor Day, we got a special being planned for our Labor Day broadcast. And Gary Harbaugh, our national debt contributor, he has put together a couple great videos for us to address the national debt. So we'll be catching up come Labor Day on September 2nd with him. So, all right. Well, let's move on then, Ken, and let's bring up our first guest this evening. And that happens to be our State Director, Mr. Dale Tipton. Hello, Dale.
Hello, gentlemen.
Dale, how about giving us a quick update on how the month of July turned out? Although you were supposed to do this last week, I understand, but a week
Dale,
away.
I was all set to condemn you for your mistake, but lo and behold, you go and set another new record for comms, and so I just have to set on it. I just have
Okay, all right, good.
I
for
just
you.
have to be quiet. To be quiet. Another good month in July. A lot of stuff happening. Outstanding volunteers for the month. Well, let's see. Supporters. That's a new way of spelling that, Dale. I wouldn't have spelled it that way, but it's okay.
You wouldn't have spelled it that way. See, you got to find out. Got to find something, some mistake that I've done. Yeah,
It's my fault, right? I misspelled that. Right?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so that number continues to grow. We didn't think we'd ever hit 70,000, but we're working our way onward and upward, and so
good.
So that is good. What do you got next there?
Okay, you were
Volunteers.
going to recognize some
Yeah.
good performers.
David Nally, Greg Coleman, Michael Gibson, Diane Jones, Robert Aronson. They carried the ball as far as the most active volunteers across the state.
Now I'm beginning to see Robert's name more often. Robert, now he's down in Evansville, isn't he?
Nope, he's north. He's around the Crown Point area.
Oh, he is around. Oh, is he? Okay, I've
Yeah,
got him confused with someone else.
he's in the region.
Okay.
The region. He's a retired physician and is
Yes.
just a very self-motivated guy and is doing lots of good things.
Yep.
So
the other names here I've seen before, but I'm beginning to see his more often now. That's good.
Yeah. Always good to bring in some new blood.
Yep.
Next up.
Well, we've already talked about this.
Yeah, and I mean this you can talk about this over and over. Every time I suggest a new goal for these guys, they beat it like the next week. So it's pretty awesome. I mean, there've been some great changes in the programming, and I think it shows that it's paying off. So
yeah.
Congratulations to everybody.
Thank you. Well, I think you wanted to give some attention to Susan.
Susan, she's the editor of the newsletter, and anybody that's ever seen the newsletter, it's a very quality product. She does an excellent job putting it together, and she's been fighting through some health issues and still coming up to bat whenever she needs to get these things done. So I just wanted to compliment her and recognize her, for her continued excellent work for us.
Yeah, and they just is their move complete? I know they just moved to the Lafayette area, isn't it?
I believe so, and she said they are enjoying it very much. They are at the end of a gravel road near a lake, and
wow,
nothing but fireflies at night and peace and quiet.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yep. Yeah, it does.
Sounds very nice.
That's good for them.
Well, tell us briefly, Dale, about this Article 5 experience coming up.
Well, that will be in Comfort, Texas. It's basically the headquarters for the Patriot Academy's new campus that Rick Green is building down there. And we've all had a couple of simulated conventions in the past to show people how it worked. And so the primary people that have always been involved are state legislators, because these are obviously called by the state. And so this time they've decided to do another abbreviated experience to be held mid-September, and they're going to have the grassroots attend it and be the commissioners. So people from the various states will go learn exactly how this convention process works, and then they'll be able to come home to their own individual states and explain it to the legislators and to the other volunteers. We are represented by Marty Wood and Dan Stock, and we had to raise a significant sum of money to send them, and that has been done and is complete. So
good.
These gentlemen are ready to go.
Good deal. Well, we'll be looking forward to having them on COS Indiana Live to tell us about their experience, and I'm sure that'll be sure they'll get a lot out of that. That ought to be very good.
Yep.
All right, Dale.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good evening, bud.
You betcha.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yeah, that Article 5 experience, that ought to be interesting, Ken. So we'll have to devote some time to having Marty and Dan on and tell us about the experience. Well, the next guest that we're having on this evening is a frequent guest on COS Indiana Live, Debbie Stewart. And I've asked Debbie to do some research on something that I've heard a lot said. I've heard it said many times on news broadcasts, and that is Project 2025 and how terrible it is and how what Trump is going to do. And I hear different stories about this. I know very little about it. So I thought, Debbie, why don't you investigate this and come on and tell us what Project 2025 is all about. So let's bring her on and find out, Ken.
Sounds good.
Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Dale. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Debbie.
How's
Well-
everybody doing?
Doing fine, doing fine.
Good.
Debbie, we're looking for some truth here.
Okay. That's a good thing. I'm always digging for truth.
There we go.
So tell us about what is this terrible thing called Project 2025?
Yeah, it's very interesting because the left is making it sound like this is just horrible thing, and they're vilifying it. And it didn't help when Trump was said some things that weren't so great about it too. He has some nitpicks about it, but I think there a lot of the policies in there are going to align with his administration. But we'll talk a little bit about Trump's response here in a little bit, but he had some issues and we'll talk about those. So, but the Project 2025 is the presidential transition project. That's all it is. And back in 1981, when Ronald Reagan stepped into office, they did the same exact thing. It was very similar, and he adopted about 60% of the policies in his administration. Everybody talks about how wonderful the Reagan administration was. So these are just all conservative. It's a collection of policy proposals made up by a big group of conservatives to reshape the executive branch of the United States federal government. And we know there are so many agencies that are so overlapping, and there's so many people in them that we went from, our federal government is huge now, and many of those people are in these agencies. So they're way bloated. Okay. And this is reshaping is more on an unprecedented scale in the event that in this election this fall in November, we have a Republican take over on January 20th. So they're ready to go. This is a playbook. It's about 900 pages, and it aims to build an effective conservative administration.
Wow.
It's really actually, I think, a decent thing. There might be some details in there that you don't agree with, right? And but for the most part, it's a playbook that you can pick and choose. What are some of the ways I can handle this situation? What can I do with the Department of Defense? What do I do with the Department of Justice? Things like that. So it's based on 4 pillars, and I'm going to touch on each one right now, just tell you what they are, and then we'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. But the first thing is the first pillar is a policy agenda. So it talks about how are these agencies supposed to be governed. The second pillar is just personnel. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit, all the people. The third is training. And the fourth one is a 180-day playbook that gets them going right off the bat from day one. So as opposed to you're trying to put your thoughts together in December, November, early January, it's already there. You step in on day one, you can just pick and choose what options you want to take out of this thing for your administration.
Now, do you know did any other organizations put together something like this? Or
I have not heard of anything. There's probably something on the liberal side. I haven't heard of anything. I think this is all kind of a redo of what they did for Reagan in 1981. So it's not anything new. It's just maybe called Project 2025.
so
But now we have a left that is so much more polarized to what we believe in.
okay.
So just to give you an example, I went out to Google, okay, implications. I wanted to hear, what are the implications of Project 2025? The first 2 pages were just all liberal. I couldn't even find a conservative viewpoint. So even the search engine itself is bringing up all the left-wing organizations. Oh, it's just so terrible, and they're gonna completely change our government. No, it's called downsizing. It's called taking 2 organizations that are doing the same thing, putting them together, streamlining, things like that.
Debbie, we have a quick question, and I believe it's related to where this was, where this evolved from. So I'll put this one up. Certain Elf would like to know. He was told there was a lot of involvement with the Heritage Foundation. Is that a truth?
That is very true. And actually, the Heritage Foundation was also facilitating this with many other organizations involved. And we'll name a couple of those in a little bit that will give you an example. But there were so many conservative organizations involved, like Liberty University was in there, Patrick Henry College, Alliance Defense Fund. if you're a conservative organization and you're true to conservatism, you were probably involved. But I think the Heritage Foundation sound like they kind of, brought everybody together and kind of facilitated the process. So great question.
Interesting. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it aims to purge also the climate fanaticism that is pervading the Biden's administration goals. And that's why so many progressive organizations are completely vilifying it, because they're all about climate change. And this is saying, we're going to tone that way down. So, and then there's a couple underlying goals. One was to restore the family as the centerpiece of America.
There you go.
Dismantle the administrative state and work towards self-governance. We love that one.
All right.
The third one, we want to defend our sovereignty and our borders, right? Which this sounds like really just wisdom to me. And then fourth, we want to secure our God-given rights. So I don't know who would oppose those four things, but I mean, that sounds like living in a good country. But
yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the benefits. What would some of the benefits be? Well, we'd have a really nice streamlined government. It would make it more efficient. We might not need as many people, or maybe we should move people over to where their skills are. It would be, secondly, a policy implementation. So you would be able to quickly implement these policies. They're all spelled out for you, how you implement them. So it'd be a quicker turnaround. The personnel and training would allow the right people to have with the right skills to be in the right positions. No more DEI. It's about what you can do. What are you skilled in? Oh, this is what this job does. You'd be great for that. And then last is there would be climate policy changes. And I see that as a benefit, because I don't think it should become what climate change is becoming. So I see that as a benefit. But so we're going to reduce excessive climate regulations that would potentially benefit industries that are involved in the whole climate change movement. Spending so much money on making changes that are going to have such little impact. So those are some potential benefits.
Does the plan name individuals that they think should be in certain positions?
No, I did not see any of that. And I didn't get down to just because it's 900, it's almost 900 pages.
Yeah. Wow.
So I just dug down into, okay, what would an example of like the Department of Defense be? And it's broken down into 5 sections too. But I think what they're saying is it's kind of a generalized policy thing, and they're making suggestions. So for example, in the Department of Defense, they said, well, why don't we dismantle this certain department? And then why don't we move this part of that department over here, the second part of the department over here? And they were giving ways to do that so that you could combine and cooperate with other parts of the bureaucracy, that you're kind of doing the same thing.
Okay.
So you're not repetitive. One of the things, they do want to get rid of the Department of Education, and or at least change it. And I know Trump, that was one of his things that he agreed with. So he would be fine with that, right? So, and again, you can pick and choose what you want. This is like cafeteria style. You don't have to do any of it if you don't want. But I think it's great to have something like this.
Yeah.
Right? I guarantee the Democrats have a playbook they've been working out of for years now. So, okay. How about downsides? Well, first thing would be, if you want to do anything that's bipartisan, that would be tough. It'd be more polarizing, right? Because it's much more conservative focus. There's environmental concerns. Well, you're going to go too far, and then our environment won't be taken care of the way it should be. The third downside that I saw were implementation challenges. So if they're going to implement a lot of this stuff quickly, it might cause a lot of disruption and interference, and it might end up being more inefficient. And then fourth is public opposition. People who don't agree are going to, you're going to have riots and unrest and stuff like that if they don't like it. But we have that with anything. So
yeah, no matter what you do.
Right. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about former President Trump's response.
Is this plan available to the public?
Absolutely. I have it on here, but if you just go to www.project2025.org, the whole thing is there. You can click on something. It gives you the 800 and some page document. You can look through it.
Really? Okay.
Yep. It's all out there. Nothing's hidden. I mean, they're not trying to hide anything. It's just all out there.
Okay. All right. So what does Trump think about this?
Yeah, so he's kind of distancing himself from this, and it's very interesting because he says he knows nothing about it, but these were the people in his 2016 administration that were working on it.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure where the disconnect is, but he does disagree with some of the proposals, calling them ridiculous and abysmal.
Huh.
Even though many individuals, I said, already worked with it or worked in his administration. But so for the most part, though, there's a lot of overlap between Trump policies and the policies in this playbook. So I would say there's more things in here that he agrees with than he doesn't. But he disagrees with, first, the restriction on the abortion pills. Okay, so he's kind of backed off a little bit, right, of his abortion ban because he feels like it's just not, there will be so many people who you'll offend if you completely take everything away. It's just not a wise. Reality, I think, is the word maybe I'm looking for. Realistic. So that was the first thing, is he said that it's just too strict. And then the second is for certain regulatory changes that he finds that are problematic. And I don't know what those are. Okay. But he has agreed to expand the number of political appointees. And he's already talked about, eliminating the Department of Education. So we know that that's been there too.
Okay. All right.
Specific abortion restrictions that Trump disagrees with. He said that he doesn't agree with reinstating earlier safety protocols. He doesn't want to criminalize shipments, and he doesn't want to roll back the FDA approval of medication abortion. Which I think is, this whole medication abortion thing has gotten really easy. They send you the pills and then you take them and then you just go through it versus you're in there. I think it's all awful, but it's easier for them to just send you the pills and yeah. Mm. But then there's others who oppose. When we talked about progressives, they think it's going to be too powerful for the executive branch. And it just happens to be Trump in there that's going to be running the Project 2025. So that doesn't help because they already, say he's tyrannical and things like that. And it could impede social and environmental justice, things like that. These progressive groups are complaining about.
One of the news reports I heard was that Trump was going to implement Project 2025, and that was going to take your Social Security away.
Yeah, no.
So,
well, that's the thing. It's better to go read the document because everybody's saying stuff because they want to put fear in everybody.
Right.
So, oh gosh, he's going to implement that. I don't want to vote for him then. And that's
right.
just, yeah.
Right.
So I would encourage everybody to go take a look at it,
Interesting. That's very good. Okay.
Yeah. So now we're moving on to just kind of inside some of the details.
Yeah.
It's called the Mandate for Leadership. So if you go to the website and you click on the actual document, it's called Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. And it's more than 400 scholars and policy experts getting together. So we're ready on day one to save our country, day one of this next administration. And I already mentioned the Heritage Foundation is facilitating that, not quite 900 pages. 5 sections. So you can say 800 some pages divided into 5 sections. The first one is a short section called Taking the Reins of Government. It's really about the White House office, executive office of the president, and then central personnel agencies. What are they going to do with that part of the organization? The second section is on the common defense. It's Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, blah, 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 some of those agencies. Section 3 are some of the other agencies. It's called General Welfare. So you've got 11 department agencies all in there, like the Department of Agriculture. So it's going to be, how do we take these 11 departments and agencies and restructure them to look differently so that we're more efficient and streamlined? I mean, every business that I know of that I've worked for always does this. and it impacts the bottom line, and they save money, and people are working better together. So I don't see anything wrong with streamlining, right?
Right.
The fourth section is on the economy. So you got like the Department of Commerce, the Treasury, Federal Reserve, organizations like that. And last but not least, the fifth section is independent regulatory agencies. So that kind of covers everything under the executive branch, all broken up into 800 some pages.
Very good. Very interesting. Very
Yeah.
good.
A couple things too. I know I got another minute or so, Dale.
Couple minutes. Yep.
Couple minutes. Okay. There's the advisory board that lists it like in the preface of the document. There's about 50 organizations such as the Leadership Institute, Family Research Council, the ACLJ, organizations like that all have gotten together. And they want to join forces to seize the day, is what it says.
Okay.
And I talked about the 4 pillars. The policy is how to government, and then if to govern in those agencies, and if there's disagreement, what path does the president choose? The second one, the personnel, really is going to be this big personnel database that allows them to build their own professional profiles. The training is called the Presidential Administration Academy. It's an online educational system that will teach them how-tos or advanced training, or if they're experienced, it'd be more like in-person seminars and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then that fourth pillar, that 180-day playbook, is really, it's the transition plans to move out as soon as the president takes his oath. So that's the first half of the year.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. So that's really it on that. And then implications, right? It'll depend on who wins, because if the Democrats win, it's a non-issue, right?
Right. Right.
And if Trump wins, how much of it will he agree with? We don't know. Some say it could be a roadmap for radically reshaping the U.S. government with a single leader at the helm. That's some of the fears. Are we overhauling the federal government? We're restructuring federal departments to realize more conservative ideologies. If you're conservative, you think that's a good thing.
That sounds pretty good to me.
There's some people that'll be out of work most likely, because if there's a ton more people than we need,
We certainly need to do some of that. Yes, yeah. No doubt about that.
So those are just some of the indications. I'm sure there are a lot more depending on what side of the aisle that you're on. But overall, I think it's great. I mean, every football coach wants to have a great playbook, and he can pick and choose what he wants in there.
Yeah.
He probably has, 15 plays he loves, and he doesn't touch the other 6. Well, so what? As long as he has a winning team.
Yeah. All right. Very good, yeah. Deb.
So just a reminder, you can go to www.project2025.org and find out all about it.
All right.
Listed in the chat, Debbie.
Okay. You put that in there, Ken? All right.
Oh, good. Great.
All right. Okay. Debbie, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
I feel like I know a little bit more about Project 2025 now. So
Good.
Thank you, Deb. Have a good time. Have a good evening.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye. That's very good, Ken. I've been looking forward to hearing what
I know you said you're not a reader, so are you going to try and order the audio copy?
Probably not.
Okay. Just.
Is there an audio copy?
I knew you might ask. No, I think I'm just making that up. Although it would be a good thing to have. I don't know.
Yeah,
might not sell very well on Amazon, but
Okay, Kent, let's move on. We got a quick John's Journal here. That I'll tell you what. I want to go on to our next guest video, and we'll come back and do John's Journal if we have time here. Okay.
All right.
Debbie went a little bit longer than we had planned.
That's okay. It was a big subject. So
it was a good subject, and we needed to give her some time to do that. No doubt about it. So, as you all know, we have a new series started. It's called Pillars of Freedom with Wendy Olson, and Wendy is bringing us a lot of content with regard to January 6th, what's going on there. As you all know, we had an interview with a J6 prisoner, Jeremy Brown, a couple weeks ago. And what I have learned through Wendy, and we're going to have more of that, folks. We're going to have more interviews of that type coming up. But what I'm also learning is that there is a vast network out there of support for these people that have been caught up in this January 6th event. Not only people in prison, but people that have been in prison and now out, or people that were just arrested and prosecuted. And not only the individuals specifically, but their families that have been affected. So what I'm going to show you tonight is part one of an interview that I did with a couple ladies that have started a group called Patriot Mail Project. And so I hope you learn a little bit more about them. We're only going to have time for the first part of this interview tonight, but we'll try and get the second part in very soon here in the future. And we're going to be talking to some other similar groups that are involved in supporting these individuals that have been affected by this. So let's play this and hope you enjoy this. Well, greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live. You know, we've been getting more and more involved in the J6ers, or the January 6th incident that happened in DC. And as you know, we've had one interview with Jeremy Brown, a current person that's incarcerated. And we're expanding to get in touch with more and more people that are involved in the January 6th incident or event. And of course, our own Wendy Olson is presenting us these contacts as part of her series, Pillars of Freedom. So Wendy has helped us line up this evening an organization called the Patriot Mail Project, and I'm going to bring on very shortly the key individuals involved in this project. What I'm learning as I get involved in this event and talk to people is that there's a very large network of different organizations and people out there that are involved and very interested, of course, in supporting the individuals that are caught up in this event, either in prison or been incarcerated and are now out, as well as family members. It's amazing the number of people that have been affected by what happened on January 6th and what has happened since then. So tonight we're going to bring you an example of an organization that is involved in reaching out and staying in touch with all the people that have been involved in the January 6th incident. So I want to bring on the major people involved in this organization. Again, Patriot Mail Project. And let's bring on both of them right now. I want to introduce you to first Marie Goodwyn. Marie, you're muted, so be sure to unmute yourself. And Paula Calloway. So both of you, welcome to COS Indiana Live, and I want to thank you for coming on to talk about your organization. Now, if I understand now, Marie, you're located in Texas, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. and Paula, you're in North Carolina.
Yes.
So I'm finding out. I don't know if this is going to hold true or not, but I'm finding out there's a lot of people from Texas involved in this, in these support groups. But that's just an early observation of mine, because we've got another group lined up to bring on to you in September, and they are also located in Texas. But don't know that holds true for everyone. But I want to first start out with asking both Marie and Paula if they would tell us their story, or tell us how they got interested and motivated to start the Patriot Mail Project. So, Marie, I want to start with you, and I think this involved your son Daniel. Am I right?
Yes. So my son went to DC on January 6th, and he was in the Capitol for 36 seconds and was asked to leave by a police officer, and he left. And subsequently, we had a FBI raid at our house. Homeland Security and FBI came to our house at 6 in the morning on January the 21st.
Wow.
And they arrested Daniel. He was taken to jail. He stayed there for 21 days. And later on, he was working for StopHate.com. So later on, David Somo invited me, who is the owner of StopHate.com, invited me to a group. And that's where I met Paula Calloway, who is the original person for the Patriot Mail Project. She owns the website, and she is really the soul of this website and project. So I just asked her if I could help her update the information for prisoners. And also I asked her if we could add anybody that was for which we would have an address that had been arrested, and she said yes, and we started like that. At the time, there were 80 people incarcerated at the time. Oh no, that's not 80. There was probably 30, right? And we started to add people. So that's how we met, and that's how I volunteered to help her.
Now, and what eventually happened with your son? Is he?
So my son received 5 charges. One was the 1512 charge that the SCOTUS just made a decision about, and that charge was worth 20 years of prison.
Wow.
And it's called 1512 C2, and it's interruption of an official proceeding. And he had also 4 misdemeanor that had to do with entering the Capitol. So anyway, he was asked to plead guilty to the felony charge, and he refused. And later on, they came back and they dropped 1512 and asked him to plead guilty to one of the misdemeanor, which he did. So he had done 21 days at the beginning in prison. Then he did 13 months in home detention. Then after that, he was free. And his sentencing happened last year in August. And he was sentenced to 60 days plus time served. So he had 21 more days, 39 more days to do. And he did that at the FCI Bastrop in Texas.
So, Marie, what was he doing? How many, 36 seconds he was in the Capitol building, did you say?
Yes.
What was he trying to do? What was he?
Was just entering to be there with the people that were there.
Okay. All right.
And he works for Stop Hate, so he was kind of citizen journalist recording history, because people wanted to ask for redress of their grievances.
Okay. That Stop Hate is another one of the groups that I plan on making contact with. But anyway, so So your son is out. Has he found other employment or?
No, so the judge at sentencing ordered that monitoring software would be put on his devices, computer and phones.
Right.
And so he appealed that, and the appellate courts decided that the judge was in error. So he returned and say, you need to explain to us why you want to do that. But the judge decided that he wanted to do it, so he did it. But they actually haven't put anything on his computer so far, and he's going to be done with his supervised release in 9 days. So it's kind of moot. We still appeal the second time, but my son basically wanted to do that in order to get a decision that would be favorable and could be used by other districtors that are getting the same kind of conditions.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really
36 seconds. Is that what you said? 36 seconds. Huh?
yes.
Wow.
And he walked in front of about 100 police officers that were just standing there by the building doing nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody stopped him from entering or anyone. And it's just inside, one of the police officers told him to leave, and he left.
Yeah.
But the judge was very annoyed because my son went on Tucker Carlson show, and he showed the video of him entering the building and leaving the building, and his judge was very annoyed about it.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Well, Paula, now I understand your interest started a few years earlier, right?
It did. There was a couple of incidents several years back. There was the Bundy Ranch protest that happened out in Nevada. And then a lot of the same ones that were at that protest also were doing a protest in Oregon over the Hammond Ranch. And that actually turned out really horrible. There was a man, Lavoy Finicum, that was shot and murdered by the state police. That was January 26th of 2016. And that incident brought together so many people from across the country. We all ended up in a Facebook group. I'll back up. After Lavoy was shot, it was not long after that. That was January 26th. By March, the first week of March that year, they started to arrest a lot of the people who had attended either of those or both of those protests. I think it was right at 42 people that they arrested. And that prompted a Facebook group where a lot of us were just organizing amongst ourselves to make sure they were getting mail. I think we were just in shock that was happening here in America. And we didn't know what else to do. We wanted to be supportive, but again, we didn't know what to do. And that was what we ended up doing, was just making sure that they had plenty of mail, which grew into all kinds of different support aspects of that. Christmas, we took care of their children for Christmas. There was families sometimes that didn't have enough money for diapers and so forth, and we would make sure that those families had what they needed. But again, this was 42 people. So the beginning of the Patriot Mail Project is so much different than where we're at today, just the number-wise especially, which changes the whole aspect of everything, because 42 people is quite easy to keep up with, get to know each and every family, know all of their needs. Now we're at like 1,476 that we have records of right now. So it's a whole different ballgame. It's a lot different. There's a lot more work to it. And you don't get to know everybody that's on this list. Now we have addresses for 362 of them, but still it's different.
Well, I hope everyone found that interesting. These two ladies have sure have some experiences that brought them into this, and I have to hand it to them. Boy, they are very dedicated. Marie has reached out to me since I did this interview. She's involved in another organization, similar one, and so I'm gonna pursue that one too. So
it's interesting, Dale. I think, as these ladies have shown, when you get involved or start to learn, more about that day, that it's just the more you learn about it, the more you just shake your head and say, this isn't America. This isn't America. And these ladies, you got to give them all the kudos. They're just they dive in and they've developed these groups. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
It is. And now in part two, of course, we'll continue that conversation. But in part two, we're going to get into the website that they have, and we're going to show people how to find people that you want to communicate, prisoners that you want to communicate with. And I want to encourage people to go to that website and especially find any of the prisoners located in your home state that are open to receiving any kind of mail. And we'll walk through an example in part two. I did that for the prisoners that are located that are from Indiana that are imprisoned, and there are some, and so we'll show people how to do that. So part two will be very interesting. So hope everybody enjoyed that. Well, Ken, let's start wrapping things up here. Then we're not going to have time for John's journal tonight. We'll make time in the future for sure. But let's start talking about let's tell everybody what's coming up. The next thing on the agenda is next Monday evening is our roundtable, which we do every fourth Monday. And this roundtable topic is enumerated powers of the federal government. So we're all busy. John Aukerman's got us all doing research on it. Have you told him which enumerated powers you're going to cover?
I have not yet, Dale. I'm still researching that myself.
You need to do that. So he knows.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, John's very good about and very thorough about exploring these topics, and he does a great job. So that's what's coming up next Monday evening. Now, the following Monday, which is Labor Day, September 2nd, and Ken and I are going to put together we normally and have done a best of in the past, but this time we're going to do another one of these pre-recorded presentations. So we'll need to get together and do some recording here, Ken. But we're going to present on this pre-recorded session. We're going to present a couple videos that Gary Harbaugh has created with regard to the national debt. Very, very good videos. And then also the final segment of Meet the Founders with Larry Hudson on Thomas Jefferson. I think we're finally going to get Thomas Jefferson wound up here. and then he's going to get started on George Washington. So
that'll be another 2, 3, 4 part series, I would think.
It will. I fully anticipate that. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, as always, folks, anyone that maybe has a comment or a question after the broadcast tonight, you can drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. And we'll be sure to respond to you. So Ken, I want to wrap up this evening with another installment from John Aukerman on COS Basics. And he's going to be talking about the 1787 convention being considered a runaway. Well, no, but another myth. I think that he's into these myth busters, so he's gonna get involved in that. So we'll play that video to close out here, and that'll be it for us tonight. So, any comments or questions from viewers, Ken, that we need to address before we sign off here?
Not at this point, although I know there was one mention that we definitely need to, where was it here? Let me scroll back a little ways. It was talking about the fact that we definitely need to have something on the, a place to follow up on the Project 2025. He was looking for a clip of some sort, I guess, maybe some kind of a follow-up clip on Project 2025. So I think with the website address and some additional information that we might be able to provide on that, we'll do so. But
that is a topic that we could probably do more on.
Yep.
Maybe we could convince John to maybe devote a roundtable to that.
Might be a way for him to delve into that. So
Yeah,
that was a real comment I think we needed to address with it. Otherwise, everybody I think was eager to hear what Debbie had to say about Project 2025. So.
Right. So she kind of teased our taste buds here. So we want to hear more about that, I think.
I think it seems every topic we get into, Dale, seems to be a huge one, and we end up having to delve into it in many segments.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's the way
Maybe these topics are as big as our government.
Unless you want to make COS Indiana Live a 2 or 3 hour broadcast, and I don't think we want to go there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, folks, that'll be it for Ken and I tonight. We'll close out with a COS Basics video here with John Aukerman, and that'll be it for tonight. So look forward to seeing you all next Monday on our roundtable. We're going to be talking about the enumerated powers of the federal government. Always a good topic to talk about. So everyone, have a good evening. Thank you.
John Aukerman for Convention of States, Indiana. This is our ongoing series on COS Basics, and starting today and continuing for the next several episodes, going to be having some fun busting some myths. The first myth that I want to bust is this one, that the 1787 Philadelphia Convention was a runaway convention. Some of our opponents love to say that. And they use that as an objection to having a convention now. They say, oh, wow, the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia was a runaway convention. That's the myth. They say that any convention held today would almost certainly be a runaway convention because even the big one, the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, was a runaway. The only thing they were supposed to do was amend the Articles of Confederation. Well, the reality is that the Philadelphia Convention in 1787 was not a runaway. The delegates obeyed the instructions given to them by their states, as evidenced by the fact that no state took any action against its delegates. The charges levied against that convention are as old as the Constitution itself. There's nothing new under the sun. In fact, James Madison devotes the entirety of Federalist 40 to justify the actions of the convention and explain how the delegates stayed within the confines of their commissions. One claim that they make is that the delegates were not authorized to propose a national structure for the Union. They were restricting to revising and amending the federal structure only. We're getting a little bit in the weeds here, but this is one of the things they say. Well, this is the first point that Madison addresses in Federalist 40. He says they were authorized to propose a mixed structure, partly federal, partly national. The second claim that opponents make is that the convention did not revise and amend the Articles of Confederation. It proposed a whole new convention. Madison addresses this claim also. Concerning the extent of the changes recommended by the convention, Madison notes that alterations in the body of the instrument are expressly authorized, and new provisions therein are expressly authorized. Therefore, the convention had, quote, the power to change the title of the document, to insert new articles, and to alter old ones. There was no limit on the instruction to revise and amend the Articles of Confederation. Dramatic changes were expected by everyone. Madison notes, again in Federalist 40, that the states would never have appointed a convention with so much solemnity, nor described its objects with so much latitude, if some substantial reform had not been in contemplation. Today, we would paraphrase the charge to that convention as, do whatever it takes to keep the Union together. Busted. The myth that the convention in Philadelphia in 1787 was a runaway convention is busted. It was not a runaway convention. It did exactly what the various states wanted it to do, as evidenced by the fact that no state prosecuted its delegates, and further evidenced by the fact that the states actually went ahead and adopted this Constitution. And I am so glad that they did.